way back. All right, guys. Hey, Sister Caroline, I see you. All right. Okay, good. Good stuff. I'll bring in my guest whilst we wait. All right, tell a friend to tell a friend. This story is about to go a whole notch higher. So, all right, fantastic. Good stuff. So we'll give them 30 seconds to join, but
Okay.
uh-oh, my camera still keeps dropping. So I hope you've got a drink because we're now going into it now, and we'll give you a break of such. So you were saying that so your dad gave you this handwritten letter and talking
Hmm.
about commitment. So that was what you were talking about. So
Yeah.
take us on on your journey, your immediate 6 months journey coming into from that day into your first 6 months, or pretty much where you got your first break, basically in London.
So for me, London again had different phases. So I know that listening to some of the hustle stories before today, people arrived with maybe 150 pounds, 80 pounds, 10 pounds, and all of that in their pockets.
How much did you
Um,
arrive with? 2,000 pounds.
ah, if you arrive with 2,000 pounds today, you're still in good hands.
Yeah, done.
So I think for me, I somebody gave me 80 pounds. One of my uncles gave me 80 pounds. My dad was here, so I was coming to collect some money from my dad, if that
Okay.
makes sense at least.
Okay.
But for me, I the my a bit of an interesting story. So I didn't come into London with financial worries,
Okay.
if that
Okay.
makes sense. I didn't
Yeah.
have that, which you will find out how
Yeah.
the story then unfolded later.
Okay.
So
Cool.
for me, I didn't really have to worry about. So when I came in and needed to start my masters, my host had offered me accommodation, stuff like
Mm.
that. We didn't need to really have any chat, formal conversations about my master's fees and
Yes.
stuff like that, which I'll come to in a moment. So I was able to focus on my, at least for the first first semester or so, I was able to focus on university. It
Yeah.
was, as you know, masters is not 5 days a week, 2 days a week. I started my first job as an admin assistant, working
Okay.
20 hours per week. So I didn't have like a McDonald's job, no disrespect there,
Yeah.
but I had like an office job. And more importantly, I was also a music director. So
Okay.
I was providing value, if that
Okay.
makes sense,
Yeah.
which took some of my time as well. And then still earning as I didn't have to pay like rent. I had to pay my own phone bill at least. Have my
Yeah.
mobile phone and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I got given a car because I had to help with some of the domestic duties as well,
Okay.
like drop kids or like the school run. So I was also pulling my weight, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
doing uni. And so throughout my masters, that it was fine. First semester, second semester, some of the funding failed. And you go to school, you swipe your card, and you're told that no lectures for today. It's a bit of an issue. So I think I had to stay at home for like maybe 1 or 2 weeks. I missed a number of lectures, but we made it through master's degree
Mm.
in one piece. And so all through my masters, I was able to focus on my
Yeah.
studies,
Yeah.
but also doing a lot of ministry at that point. But then masters finished, and I wasn't a 16-year-old just landing in England.
Mm.
My boy had to stand on his 2 feet. So I just after some time I decided that I wanted to move out,
Mm.
not because anybody wanted me to leave. It was just time for me to do
Yeah.
do my own thing, if that makes sense. It wasn't an easy decision in terms of moving out.
Yeah.
I was able to find, so my best man at the same time was also looking for accommodation, and then two of my cousins were arriving from Nigeria as well, coming for their own. So four of us came together and just we
Good.
got our first flat, which was good. It was
Mm.
nice to be doing your own thing, if that makes sense. That's where the real hustle started, my brother.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was me. No, after masters, not like I had a job, but I just knew it was time to kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I left, no job, nothing, no income. So this is where real hustle started. But I'd kind of made some good friendships and mentors and stuff like that. So I approached somebody who was a property developer. Like, is there any job I can do? So I wasn't looking for, like, obviously CV was out looking for jobs, but it wasn't happening at
Yeah.
all in any kind of way. I've applied for all kinds of jobs, believe me. In fact, we'll come to that part of the story later. Because
Oh,
so a brief history of some of so I this is me thinking. So if I approach this property developer, he might give me a nice job. My first job was gardening.
wow. Okay.
So there
So,
was a
so real quick. Now, listening to your story, you've been thrown into management very early,
yeah,
helping your mom's business and then, managing it when they're not around. And
yeah.
then you've done masters. And then how did you quickly rationalize yourself from all of that to a gardening job?
Bros, there was no rationalization. That's the truth.
Hmm.
Yeah, but for me, I'm somebody who I think I'm quite intense in terms of my mantra is no excuses.
Yeah.
If it needs to be done, it has to be done.
Hmm.
Whether I'm enjoying it or I'm not enjoying it, if it's something that it's a means to an end, then
Yes.
I'll just have to go through it. So for me, as at that time, I was dating my wife, but my boy has to be my boy, if that makes sense. I'm not going to. It's the expectations. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yes. Yes.
And one of the things that I celebrate my wife, she didn't allow me to relax. I've said
Hmm.
this before. When I met with my wife, I could have been house husband, easy.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? For
Yeah.
me, it was like she didn't allow me to sit. Like, we are not going to rely on me as a breadwinner. This has to work. Do
So
you,
how so how did you tell her that when you got the gardening job? How did you break that news to her?
I didn't have to break the news to her. She encouraged me. So she's gone to a 9 to 5 job. I'm in my
Hmm.
gardening job. She's calling me to find out how is it going.
Hmm.
Hang in there, keep
Hmm.
grafting. So
Hmm.
for me, it was a gardening job, and I did a fantastic job. So from there, from gardening, I got promoted to a handyman, believe it or not, which meant
Okay.
that I could be given some kind of tools to do some other stuff.
Yeah.
And I had one experience when I started working as the handyman. So there was this property that had been abandoned for a long time. These were times when this from somebody you went to university quoting Mike Murdoch's, quoting the Miles Monroe of this world, and then you end up in London after office job, and then you're now doing gardening. My brother, when you hear stuff like and David encouraged himself in the Lord. I'm telling you,
Oh my God.
those were the moments, and also music kept me going in
Hmm.
terms of also I was in this abandoned, almost like a probate, abandoned
Hmm.
property by myself. That was quite a scary experience because the house next door was the only house on that street that had, when you go in Nigeria, when they install burglary proof in your
Yes.
house,
Yes.
that was the only house. In fact, it's the only house that I've ever seen in London that had a burglary proof door in terms
Wow.
of like a proper gate.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
So the property developer, I thought we would go into the property and we'd all be there together doing the work. The man drops me off in the morning and disappears. So this is me in the property. I'm thinking there must be something fishy going on in this property. The
Hmm.
only property with a proper iron door,
Hmm.
not the door, just the gate with padlocks.
Hmm.
I enter this house and then I get to the garden. There is raga music blasting 24/7. There are two heavy Rottweiler dogs in the garden.
Wow.
The fence is partly broken, and the weed
Hmm.
in the air, heavy. So I'm thinking, how am I going to survive here? And then suspicious people will go to that door, knock it in a particular pattern,
Hmm.
with a going with a bag, leave with a bag. So
Hmm.
I'm there
Hmm.
trying to focus on doing my handyman job, and all this hustle, like that kind of hustle is
Yeah.
going on next
It's
door.
going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and every time I have to take stuff out and empty it into the garden, I'm afraid that the Rottweiler dogs will break through. Not like I'm afraid of dogs. When I was growing up, we had 6 dogs. We
Okay.
had Alsatian dogs, we had Rottweiler dogs. So, but for me, these were dogs that were weed. Hi. So for me, it wasn't an easy experience, and
Hmm.
I'll call my wife now, and we'll talk about it and just stay safe, get the job done. And after that, I got promoted and became a painter. So I
Wow.
got this whole painting. I'm telling you, I've done all kinds of jobs in this country, and then I got given a job to paint an entire two-bedroom flat by myself.
Hmm.
I still had a car. I think God has been quite good to me. I think in this country, I've been blessed. People have given me cars at least 3 times. So I would get in my car, leave the flats. Everybody's going to 95. I drive, I park my car, I enter the property, I get my painting brush and just crack on with the job.
Hmm.
If even till today, when I drive past that place in Bermondsey, I would point whoever is sat next to me to the car. I used to be a painter. I painted
Wow.
one of those flats out there. So for me,
Wow.
but the thing is, the good thing is, while all of this was going on, I was doing a side hustle.
Hmm.
My side hustle was web design.
Fantastic.
So whilst I was trying to kind of make sure that I could meet the rent at the end of the month,
Yeah.
make sure that I'm not obviously I couldn't be hungry.
Hmm.
Hannah was there, my wife. She would feed me and stuff like that, so that wasn't an issue. But there were still things that I needed to meet in terms of
Yeah.
expenses. We were going to get married, so I had to start putting
Hmm.
money
Hmm.
aside for wedding etc. Blah blah
Hmm.
blah. So for me, the side hustle was there, which was web design.
Hmm.
And I just started building on that, started getting one or two clients who would allow me to design their websites. And after some time, that became comforting that I could manage painting, day job, web design, night job, just making ends meet.
Yeah.
So that wasn't easy. And eventually, I then landed my first proper like Thai office job as a media manager, and the salary was good. It was good.
Hmm.
I think I was at least it was above, just slightly above the average UK salary that time. So that was
So, so going to pause you there, just pause you real quick and ask
yeah
the question. So, haven't gone through because the world we live in now is social media where the facade is everything is perfect.
hmm
No blushes anywhere.
yeah
Everything has been airbrushed. And listening to this just for me, which
hmm
the essence of all of this is so we can tell our story in a relatable way, where
yeah
we don't know who's in that gardening now or who's
true
just been brought to a handyman, and just so he knows that the sun will shine again. So, how did you? It was a big jump from being a painter to finally you are now wearing shirt and tie. So you can almost say that's your first day in the UK. How did you manage the excitement, or what was that to your mind, your mental self?
it was very exciting for me in terms of like just transitioning from I love working with my hands. So I'm a DIY person. So
Okay.
I didn't really see painting or being a handyman or gardening as debasing myself. If
Hmm.
you grew up in Nigeria,
Yeah,
cutting grass is a skill that you leave secondary school with.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't think you'd have escaped that. Well, if I don't think there were those kind of private schools,
I
even
went
if
to
you
a
went there.
posh school, a very
Whatever, you
posh school.
still used the flexible cutlass. I'm sure you used it.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
oh
so
yeah.
for me, I didn't. I always take on challenges. Like I said, no excuses. If it's got to be done, it's got to be done. And I think for me, that streak, I probably got it from my mom and my mom's mom, which is my grandma was a serious hustler. This woman was a teacher. In fact, she ran a dancing troupe that toured the western states in Nigeria for a long time.
Wow.
She was chairman for Community of Women African Development. She was a hustler. She was a tailor as well. So I think that side of us has always been, if it needs to be done, then you've
Mm.
got to get it done. Think about the end point. And one
Yeah.
thing that my mom would remember say is, I'll say it in Yoruba, run to your more NET worship, which
Mm.
is remember where you come from,
Yeah.
because you cannot bring shame to the family. You see what
Yes.
I'm trying to say? So your
Yes.
son is in the UK. Of course there are expectations,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to fail. And then there was the whole hanging threat of you finish some of us enjoyed
Yeah.
sideways,
Yeah.
which is you finish university and then you can do 1 year, blah blah blah. So I had to secure a job and stuff like that. So for
Yeah.
me, I didn't see it as a challenging. So in my mind, whilst in the outward appearance, it felt like a menial job. I
Yes.
quickly got to the understanding that in the UK, your job doesn't really define you.
Yes.
There was dignity of labor. And for me, we've had people do that for us while I was in Nigeria. And
Mm.
in fact, when my dad was building our house in Nigeria, myself and my mom, we did all the tiling in the kitchen. So from an
Mm.
early age, my parents have always taught me to like work with my
Yes.
hands.
Yes.
And it is not shameful to, my mom left a teaching job to start selling bags of rice.
Hmm. Hmm.
What are
Hmm.
bags
I,
of rice? Even we've had poultry before. Where see, in Nigeria, at Christmas time,
yeah.
when it's time to buy your Christmas chicken or Christmas
Yeah.
turkey, those
Yeah.
people that stand by the side of the road
Yes.
offering you chicken. I've done
Yeah.
that before for my
Hmm.
parents.
Hmm.
Look, this is very interesting. My uncle then used this G wagon that's now like big boys. He had a
Yeah.
G wagon that he parked in our house. We would load chickens in that G wagon, drive it. If you're from Ibadan here, if you know Ring Road,
Yeah.
you drive it to Ring Road, you park that G wagon, you bring the chickens out of the car, you offer them and sell them, you go back home and reload. So for
Hmm.
me, that kind of enterprising approach has always
Yeah.
been, it was built in. I was
Hmm.
one of those kids that I would tell my parents when it's time for holiday, I want to go and spend the holiday with my grandma who had a farm.
Hmm.
I love nature. So
Hmm.
working with my hands was never really an issue for me, to be honest. It wasn't an
Okay.
issue.
So now you get into proper corporate Britain, so to say,
Finally.
with the tie and all of that. Tell us how you then went from multimedia and websiting and all of that fun stuff to becoming an IT almost geek in and around. What the question? What was the drive? What was the trigger? And why?
I think for me, it was a case of I've always loved, like I said, somebody said you don't also, yes, now. So you remember that 2 weeks of web design training
Yeah.
kind of led to
Yes.
master's interactive multimedia.
Yes.
Now I've got a master's in what felt like what I wanted to do that and I would enjoy doing. So
Yes.
I secured this role as media manager, including managing production, web design, graphic, the whole works.
Okay.
But I still had my side hustle, which
Hmm.
was web design. And now that I had a 9 to 5 job, there was no way that I could keep up with the 9 to 5 job
Yes.
and
Yes.
still be satisfying my web
Your
design
clients.
clients.
Yeah.
So I went on and I started looking for how to outsource.
Okay.
Eventually, I found a development house in India. So my day job was there, and I would outsource. So instead of doing the actual coding and
Yeah.
website building, I kept spending my time with clients, getting their requirements,
Okay.
doing the UI design. So my job was to get all their what I now knew as requirements.
Yeah.
In that time, I just knew somebody wanted to build a website. I
Yes.
would do all the look and the feel, the design, the color code, and the content architecture. I'll design all of that, and then get my guys in India to do the coding.
Hmm.
So I was running that as a side hustle. So this was the early days of me doing BA work,
Okay.
even though I didn't know that was the title, but I was
I
doing
know.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, that became my side hustle. And then I had this 9 to 5 job, and some things happened. Being, I'm very passionate about excellence,
Yes.
and there were a number of events, and I felt like I didn't see myself being in that job long term.
Hmm.
So I started trying to engineer my way out. So I started another side hustle. I started selling stuff on eBay. So there's the 9 to 5 job that's running.
Yeah.
There's the outsourcing of web design that's running.
Hmm.
I also started consulting from some primary schools in terms of learning materials, learning aids, coming from a
Hmm.
multimedia background. And the thing
Yes.
is, people will just walk up to me and say, I need help with this. Eventually becomes a proposal, becomes a business opportunity, and off I go, outsource what I can do without
Yeah.
affecting my day job, and outsource the rest to my guys in India or Ukraine, wherever I found the right developer to get the job
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So that was all, and at the same time, I was still very actively involved in ministry, although I wasn't being paid for that.
Hmm.
If I had to do that again, I'll probably go a different path with music, if that makes sense. As to when I landed in this country,
Yeah.
that would let be a complete different route, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I was doing that, and then some things happened. I felt that if I stayed here for too long, I wouldn't probably like how I would turn out in terms
Yeah.
of
Okay.
what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
There was no, what's the word now? The scope of that job was not really going to change.
Okay.
It would be
Okay.
the same thing
Yeah.
over and over again. We may change some technology, but there was no room to grow.
Oh, okay.
So I started engineering a way out. So I ramped up my website outsourcing, ramped up eBay, and eventually I just handed in my notice. That
Okay.
was sometime, I think, 2009. Just handed in my notice. It was a bit of a shocker, but nobody could change my mind on that one. Like, this is it. I'm done. I'm not
So,
doing this again.
so just another pause there.
Hmm.
When you handed that in, was your side hustle, was it at a level that even if it wasn't at 100, how
Hmm.
would you say your what in terms of what it was bringing in? Was it 30%, 40, or above 50? I'm just trying to work out because a lot of people find themselves in that very position where what I'm doing, there's no outs, there's no growth, and then side by side, I've got bills
Yeah.
and I've got to keep surviving. So talk us through what the real situation was around you, coupled with the reason for you to resign.
Yes. So for me, I had run the side hustle and the online selling to the point where if I dropped the day job,
Hmm,
my outgoings will not be impacted. Which
fantastic.
is back to one of the things that the guy
Yes,
let the demand drive
yeah,
when you drop something,
yes.
because I always crunch numbers. I'm always
Hmm,
crunching numbers. For me,
hmm,
and I'll talk about that and one of the things, I wasn't living a lavish lifestyle.
hmm.
Some people say cut your coat according to your cloth, cut your cloth according to your coat, whatever the case is. I don't live my life to impress people. So
Hmm.
I've never been somebody that's swayed with like labels and all those kind of things. It's just the outward appearance of success when it's not
Hmm.
actually in there. And I
Yeah,
think we pile a lot of social pressure on ourselves by
yes,
living that way.
yes,
Like especially because of where we come from,
yes,
where you want to appear like you are making it, but it's not really happening. And
exactly.
then look, if you cannot afford the Ashwebi, pack it. It's not all parties that you go to and stuff like that. If that
Absolutely.
makes sense, you don't have to drive the car now. Wait
Yes,
until there is enough headroom in your earning
yeah,
before you start attending to some of those wants. Yeah,
yeah.
it's just you can derail your hustle by trying to live somebody else's life when you
Wow.
should actually have your own focus. So I'm very goal oriented,
Yeah.
and I tend to set goals 5 years, 10 years, and stuff like that. I mean, I'm at the end of a 5 year cycle now,
Okay.
which interestingly coincides with lockdown etc, which is already in the planning phase for another one. So
Hmm.
the thing is, your money must have a goal.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you don't have a goal for money before you make it, when that
Yeah.
money lands, you're going to think that it's extra, but it's not
Hmm.
actually extra.
Hmm. Yeah.
Every pound must have a label. It's very
Hmm.
important. But again, some people will say that's really harsh. You must even enjoyment must be seen as a goal that must have a budget to it,
Fantastic.
so that so to fully answer your question,
Yeah.
for me, I left that job at the point where my side hustle could be my main hustle.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
was quite exciting not to have to wake up at 9 to 5 to go and serve anybody. I was doing my website, it was booming on the side. And it was great to be an independent consultant. So for
Hmm.
me, all the times that I would only be able to meet my clients actually on weekends, I was able to visit them at daytime, which kind of kept the pipeline quite
Yes.
healthy,
Yeah.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And for me, remember that I was not really in the market, or the
Yeah.
market. This
Yes.
is me just acting based on independent consulting. If you need a
Absolutely.
website, I can do that for you. I get your stuff, we design it. I speak to my developers to get it done. So I was the go between clients and see how the whole IT framework is
Yes.
coming together.
Yes.
So for me, I did that for some time, and then things pipeline started drying up.
Okay.
The financial crisis, 2008 now, 2009.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
that setting, people stopped spending money in terms of like everybody wanted everybody wanted a website then. The likes of Facebook started showing up,
Yeah.
platform websites started showing up where clients now didn't spend money on
Yeah.
bespoke development. It was a
Mm.
case of the number of people that come up with like people like I'm not sure if Wix was around then,
Mm.
where build your website yourself. People didn't want to pay good money and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So the Lone Ranger web developer or web designer architect was kind of okay. So I had to depend more on like the eBay hustle to kind of get things moving, and even that started drying up.
Hmm. So so
But
so when so when that was happening, did you ever at any point were tempted to say, you know what, I resigned? Maybe if as my role being filled by someone else or something. Did you ever get to that point where you were tempted to look back, like, maybe I could go back and get my job?
I think because it was the driver for leaving my 9 to 5 wasn't a financial one.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was more if I in the next 10 years, if I look back, is this what I want to be doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I looked at some parameters then. Actually, before I came to this country, there are certain decisions that I'd made.
Hmm.
I'd seen some people who had the opportunity and didn't really make anything of the opportunity.
Hmm.
I'd seen people who, when I came into this country, they had been here long before me, and it
Hmm.
was from one other job. It's not really having a focused approach. Like, where do
Yeah.
you want to be? It's not about from one paycheck to the other.
Hmm.
Just, I wanted to hang around people who had a plan for their lives.
Hmm.
So for me, it's a case where I could never go back to that job.
Okay. Okay.
Just even if it was paying much more money, I couldn't go back to it.
Okay. So now you've burnt all the bridges now, and you're here with you've burnt it and thrown the ashes away.
I'm
So
telling you.
okay. So you're now here with two funnels which are fast drying up right in your very eyes.
Yeah.
So tell me how this hunger drove you and where it drove you to. I'm presuming IT, but tell us how you
So
got there.
remember that I've been in IT,
Yes.
even though I was doing it as an independent consultant and stuff
Yes.
like that. So for me, some of the penny really dropped when so myself and my wife, we somebody booked us, either somebody or a group of people, I can't remember, booked us like because they saw how hard we were working in
Okay.
our 9 to 5s and the hustle, and how
Yes.
also hard we were pushing in ministry at the same time.
Hmm.
Because what I was doing in ministry was somebody else's full-time job
Yes.
and could have been getting paid for it. So that happened, and they booked us a time away, just going for the weekend. And
Hmm.
I think we had a big row. What was this row about? It was
Okay.
about, okay, we're going to start having children. What's the plan?
Hmm.
The figures didn't add up. The figures didn't add up. So we went renting. We owned our own house. Back to the whatever. First house was like a fully detached house, but I
Hmm.
never wanted to live in a terrace house. So
Hmm.
the figures didn't add up to add another human being to the equation.
Yeah.
It just didn't add up. He was, in fact, he was a big round. He was. We sorted it in the end, and that was a key turning point for me, which
Hmm.
is this income that you're earning at this moment. It gives us a certain kind of living,
Hmm.
but if you are going to add somebody else to this equation,
Yeah.
it's a completely different playing field. So I knew that we needed more headroom in the equation.
Sure.
So yes, obviously, baby came. My children,
Yeah.
and but the key that was a key turning point for me. Like more had to be done in this
Yes.
space,
Hmm.
and you would find it interesting what we did. We decided to downsize, and I'll tell
Hmm.
you what drove the downsizing. So
Okay.
this is me. The hustle is still there. It's not
Yeah.
as much as what it used to be, but
Hmm.
what drove the downsizing wasn't because of affordability. My wife's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to surprise her. So I booked her a surprise massage thing
Yeah.
in a part of town. that I actually just went to Google. There wasn't any prophetic name. Found which one was okay. This looks really nice. Blah blah blah. So I booked her for the massage. So she went for the massage and came back. When she landed, she said, "We are moving." That's what I'm like. We've just finished this row about how
Yeah.
does she said this is the part of town. We live there now. This is the part of town we want to move to.
Hmm.
Me that was trying to make sure that I was